Mr. Carl Haederer was born on May 21st, 1948 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Growing up, he lived with his parents, Martha and John Haederer, and his 7 siblings. Before enlisting into the Vietnam War, he attended high school but decided to leave and enlist because he knew that they would draft him if he hadn't, since he was 18 years old. After Mr. Carl Haederer enlisted, he felt proud that he was fighting for his country. His family, however, was not happy at the idea of their son and brother going to be a part of the war. When entering the war, he specifically wanted to be a part of the army. He decided that he wanted to join the army because he wanted to fight to help other people for their freedom. When Mr. Carl Haederer left for basic training in Fort Benning, Georgia, life was very tough for him and the other soldiers. He had to wake up very early in the morning, and the instructors made their life miserable for him. He explained,
Your life, it was their life. You had to do what you were told. You were taught whatever you were told you did.
Mr. Haederer went through basic training for around 9 weeks, and then afterwards went to Fort Huachuca, Arizona to train for his military position in the Army. While Mr. Haederer was in Fort Huachuca, he was taught how to drive and control a 64 B-20 truck and how to operate all the equipment that was needed. He also received specialized training in driving heavy vehicles. When Mr. Haederer was stationed in Vietnam, he became an E-5 Army specialist and was assigned to driving the number 20 Lark 60, which he called Snoopy. This vehicle is a 100-ton vehicle which ran on land and water and had 4 diesel Cumming engines and 4 automatic transmissions. He could crab the vehicle, go sideways, backwards, and also forwards. Also with this vehicle, he carried 23 750 pounds of bombs. To make assaults on an area of land, he would sometimes drive up along the South China Sea with other tanks and troops. While driving the Lark 60, Mr. Carl Haederer was under a lot of pressure. He stated,
You had to know what you were doing when the control one.
he had to drive the Lark through what seemed to be monsoons and very high waters that came down over top of him. While under pressure driving the Lark, Mr. Haederer adapted easily to the military life and still felt at home when he was in the barracks. According to him,
Like you were a family. Every guy over there, it didn't matter if you were black, red, green, white, you were family. You were brothers and sisters.
this means that he did not have many friendships throughout the war, but there are rarely any specific names to remember because he moved from one place to another. Mr. Haederer lived in a bunker with other soldiers that was made of sandbags, without electricity and uncomfortable bed. However, the bunkers being made of sandbags was a problem because of the monsoons. When they were hit by monsoons, they sometimes were flooded, but it was luckily easy enough for them to cope with what they had. A problem that Mr. Haederer and the other soldiers had was running on barely any sleep at all. Sometimes they had to stay awake from 1 to 2 days because they always had to be alert. During the war, the soldiers, including Mr. Haederer, had calendars where they marked off each day and counted down the days until they could go home. Having the calendars made everyone very excited and made them looking forward to going home. Finally, when Mr. Carl Haederer was able to return home, he was flown home on a jet. When he returned, his family was very excited to see him and treated him kindly, unlike the community. He was spit on and treated horribly by the people around him, which made it harder for him to adjust to civilian life. He had not talked to any of his friends in the war because he stated,
No, because I did not want to know about my friends. And they probably didn't want to know about me.
throughout the war, Mr. Haederer showed great attitude, skill, and respect, which earned him many medals. The first medal he was awarded was the Good Conduct Medal, which was given to him for being well behaved. Another medal he received was the Code of Conduct Medal. A third medal he received was the Vietnam Service Cross, which was given for his service in Vietnam. Lastly, he was given the National Defense Service Medal and 2 overseas bars. After separating from the military, Mr. Carl Haederer had many jobs until he retired. He worked as an auto mechanic in his own business for around 45 years, and secondly, he worked as a state constable. Then he worked in the telecommunications company. Lastly, Mr. Haederer worked as a daylight custodian for the Central Dauphin School District. Mr. Haederer has learned a lot from being in the war and believes that the draft should be brought back. This war taught him to respect more things in life and to be glad that we have the freedom that we do. The military also made him finish his education, which made him a high school graduate, even though he was not actually in school. In his opinion, the cause of the war was the economy because it was bad in that time period. Today, Mr. Carl Haederer belongs to the VFW, the American Legion, and the Vietnam Veterans Association. Mr. Haederer says,
Honestly, I feel we should have the draft back. Make everybody, men and women, have to join into the military. And they would find out that we could be brothers and sisters as one.